Welcome to the deep dive. We've got this incredible set of sources today, plunging us right into the pretty cryptic world of UFOs, alleged alien encounters.
And the shadowy figures who seem to pull the strings?
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack all this material, pull out the key bits of information, and explore the, frankly, surprising and often chilling details that come up.
Yeah, and it's not just, sci-fi tropes. The sources lay out this consistent narrative, supposedly from real people, real incidents.
Suggesting a kind of secret history, right? Earth's
Yeah.
relationship with something else. Let's dive in.
What's really striking right off the bat is how far back some of these accounts go and how widespread they are geographically, even, right after the war.
Sets an intriguing stage, doesn't it?
It really does.
That geographic spread is key. And our sources kick us off in 1946, deep in the Carpathian Mountains, western Ukraine.
Right. An astonishing story starts there. A 7-year-old orphan boy is found,
Yeah.
just alone. No name, no address.
Which, the sources point out, wasn't actually that unusual back then, post-war. So many displaced people.
True. But this child, well, he was anything but ordinary. The orphanage caregivers reported some really strange things,
Strange how?
like levitating in his sleep,
What?
hovering over his bed. Apparently, he could talk to trees, to birds.
Talk to them.
That's the report. And even, get this, resurrected a dead animal.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot.
And there's more. He had this eerie foresight. He supposedly predicted, chillingly, 16 years early, the first Russian in orbit.
Yuri Gagarin.
Named him
Here.
Yuri. And then his disappearance is just as unsettling.
What happened?
Well, first, some people dressed as police turn up, say they found his parents, take him away.
Okay.
But then the real Chekists, the Soviet secret police, start looking for those guys, the ones who took the kid.
So someone official looking, but not actually official, grabbed him first.
Seems like it. Suggests, immediate high-level interest in this anomaly.
That Carpathian story really throws you in the deep end, doesn't it? Just the sheer strangeness.
Absolutely. And we move from these sort of early isolated incidents to more, contemporary stuff, like this professor in Crimea.
Ah, yes, Anton Anfilov. The Crimean Mulder, they call him.
Right. His whole quest started with his own sighting. Pretty startling.
What did he see?
He described this huge object, black, complex shape, maybe 30 to 50 meters long, red blinking lights on the nose, yellow contour lights.
And the key thing.
Completely silent, just gliding over the city. And Anfilover, he was certain.
Because certain wasn't ours.
Exactly. He felt he could tell the difference between some earthly craft and something else.
Yeah.
Something unearthly. That's what kicked off his search for answers.
And it wasn't just academics like him or children. The sources bring in military witnesses, too.
Yeah, which adds another layer, right? Professionals, people trained to observe.
Like the Soviet test pilot, Nikolai Antoshkin, an expert in advanced aircraft.
His story is fascinating. He and his colleagues saw this object, ellipsoidal, orange-brown, kind of golden, before sunset.
And their first thought.
One of their own planes, maybe on fire. But flight control checked, nope, all Soviet aircraft were fine. So they send up a MiG-21 to investigate.
Standard procedure.
You'd think.
Yeah.
But what happened next was not standard. As the MiG got close, this thing, this orange-red ellipsoid,
Yeah.
it just shot upwards, an impossible angle, like 70, 80 degrees, at, quote, colossal speed, shrank to a dot, then vanished.
Wow. And these are experienced pilots.
Top guns. They knew aircraft.
Yes.
And they knew this wasn't one. And immediately, the KGB steps in,
Of course.
tells them, dismiss it. It was ball lightning.
Ball lightning, seriously.
That's what they were told. But the pilots, they'd actually seen ball lightning before. They knew this was absolutely not that.
These first few accounts, the child, the professor, the pilot, they're really diverse, but there's this thread of high strangeness. What do the sources suggest this tells us before we even get into the cover-ups?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? The sources basically argue these aren't just random blips.
Yeah.
They suggest organized, deliberate appearances by some non-human intelligence. Yeah. And what's maybe even more striking is the reaction, the immediate high-level suppression. Like there was already a playbook for this, even back in the 40s.
A protocol already in place. That's
Yeah,
revealing.
It really is.
And speaking of protocols and suppression, it's fascinating how the sources link a sharp increase in global UFO sightings directly to the period right after World War II.
Exactly. That post-war surge. The sources float 3 main theories for why that happened.
Okay, what are they?
First one, maybe the Nazis actually did build working disc-shaped craft, and the U.S. got hold of them after the war.
The Nazi saucer theory always pops up.
Right. Second theory, The arms race, just spurring new kinds of weapons, experimental planes that looked weird.
Plausible enough on its own.
Sure. But the third one, this is where it gets interesting. The idea that the start of the nuclear age, the potential for us to blow ourselves up, attracted increased alien interest, maybe concern, leading to more sightings, more reports of contact.
Okay, that's a huge jump. Nuclear anxiety attracting ETs.
It's a major thread in these sources. And digging into this, Anton Anfilov, the Crimean professor again.
Our Mulder.
He found something looking at retouched U.S. satellite photos over Nevada near the Nellis military range.
Retouched photos, what did he find?
He calls them anomalous structures, things that suggest hidden underground bases.
Underground bases. Nellis. That immediately makes you think of Charles Hall.
Exactly. The former U.S. military guy from the 60s, his claims about interacting with tall whites.
These, tall, very pale, almost benevolent-looking humanoids.
Supposedly. Living and working at Nellis with U.S. government approval. Anfilov's discovery seems to potentially link up with that.
And the sources trace this alleged U.S. alien contact way back, don't they? Even before Roswell.
Way back to a supposed crash in North Carolina, 1941.
1941, before the U.S. was even officially in the war.
Right. An egg-shaped ship, apparently. 4 survivors described as tall, milky white humanoids.
Like Hall's tall white.
That's the description. They were taken to a secret bunker, but supposedly died weeks later. Couldn't eat Earth food, basically starved.
That's grim. What's the theory behind that incident?
Well, the source suggests it might not have been an accident, maybe a deliberate diplomatic gift, or perhaps they were clones. Something tangible to provide proof, initiate contact.
A calculated first move, wow.
And supposedly this 1941 incident was later used as a cover story.
For Roswell.
For Roswell in 47. Now, the sources do acknowledge that Roswell was, at least partly, a real Project Mogul spy balloon launch, trying to detect Soviet nuclear tests.
Okay, so the official story had some truth.
Some. But they also add that classic line, no smoke without fire, hinting there was more to it.
And this leads to the really explosive claim about President Eisenhower.
Yeah, the alleged meeting at a military base between Eisenhower and aliens.
And a pact was made.
That's the chilling allegation, a trade, advanced alien technology, in exchange for permission to experiment on a certain percentage of the U.S. population.
Experiment?
Abductions, with memories erased afterwards. The figure quoted is 2%.
2% of the population, that's millions of people.
It's staggering, and it raises questions. If this deal was with the tall whites, did they stick to the number? Did they miscount?
Or other groups involved too? Because the sheer volume of abduction claims seems higher.
Exactly. That's the unsettling possibility raised.
This alleged pact technology for human subjects, it forces you to ask, what does this say about how humanity or its leaders saw our own position, our vulnerability?
Well, the core insight, the chilling takeaway from the sources here is the power imbalance, isn't it? It suggests that humanity, or at least a secret faction within its leadership, felt so vulnerable, maybe facing some overwhelming threat or just desperate for an edge.
That they made a deal with the devil, so to speak.
A Faustian bargain, exactly. It paints this picture where our autonomy is just profoundly compromised, where maybe we're not even junior partners, but potentially just a resource in some bigger cosmic game.
And our tech advances are the payment, but the price is control, lost autonomy.
Something like that. It really challenges the whole idea of us being masters of our own fate, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that leads us straight into the human cost. The experiences of people who claim they were part of that bargain unwillingly.
Abductees?
Like Anastasia Ardyomenko, her account is terrifying.
What happened to her?
Abducted, she says, right from the city center during rush hour.
In broad daylight.
Like a bright white light. And then an alien, she described him wearing something like a carnival costume, asked if she wanted to fly to space.
A carnival costume?
That was her description. She thought it was a joke initially, but she remembers his eyes. Large, no pupils, and strange spots on him.
Oh, man.
She found herself inside a ship, cigar-shaped, sitting in front of a screen that showed her the past and the future, like a time viewer.
Whoa.
But here's where it gets really specific, geographically. Her journey apparently took her to an alien base inside Bear Mountain in Crimea.
Inside a mountain?
Yes. She describes seeing this huge hangar filled with dozens of saucers being repaired. And the classic element of abduction stories.
Lost time. 8 hours unaccounted for. Memory gaps later confirmed, supposedly through regressive hypnosis.
8 hours. That lost time crops up again and again, like with Victor's Dorov.
Right. He lives in what's called an anomalous zone, claims he's been abducted repeatedly.
What was his first experience like?
He described a hat-shaped saucer hovering over his house. It tried to beam him up, apparently, but he fought it, resisted.
He resisted. Successfully.
That first time, yes. But later, he says curiosity got the better of him. He had more encounters.
And claims he actually participated in things.
Yes, participated in alien experiments, even visited their bases voluntarily, or at least less resistantly later on.
And from his experiences, he claims to know why these bases exist.
He offers 3 purposes, based on what he says he learned. First, regulating Earth's development to prevent us from destroying the planet.
Okay, planetary guardians, sort of.
Second, controlling and correcting human evolution.
Correcting? That sounds ominous.
It does. And third, protecting Earth from external cosmic threats, asteroids, harmful radiation, that sort of thing.
So a mix of oversight, manipulation, and protection. That's a complex picture.
Very complex.
These stories, Anastasia's lost hours, seeing the future, Victor's claims of participation. How do these intensely personal, often traumatic accounts really force us to reconsider our place in the cosmos?
Well, they fundamentally attack our sense of control, don't they?
Yeah.
The shared elements, lost time, unexplained medical procedures, travel that defies physics.
Yeah.
The insight here, I think, is that they challenge the idea that we are the only intelligence actively shaping our future, or even the primary one. It suggests a level of intervention, whether it's benevolent, malevolent, or just indifferent, that's deeply unsettling to our self-image.
Implying we might be managed more than managing ourselves.
That's the uncomfortable implication, yes.
And if there are these intelligences intervening, it seems logical there'd be enforcers to keep things quiet. Which brings us to the Men in Black. The MIM.
Ah, yes, the classics. Our sources say they started appearing early, 1940s in the U.S., then spread to Europe, the Soviet Union.
And the description is weirdly consistent, isn't it?
Remarkably so. Usually 2 or 3 of them. Always the black suits, black shoes, black ties, black hats, almost a uniform.
And their mission?
Targeting UFO witnesses, especially abductees. The goal seems to be enforcing silence, erasing memories.
But it's not just the clothes, it's their appearance up close that's really disturbing in these accounts.
Exactly. Witnesses often describe them as looking, not quite human. Expressionless faces, almost like masks, artificial-sounding voices, sometimes croaking or squeaky with a weird metallic accent.
And even stranger details.
Reports of wires or hoses running from their shoes, really pale, pasty skin, eyes often hidden by sunglasses, even indoors or at night. And this odd detail about needing to stop conversations because of energy depletion.
Energy depletion, like they need to recharge.
That's the implication in some reports. And Victor Zdorov, the abductee,
yes,
he claims the aliens themselves told him what the MeBe are.
What did they say?
Highly developed robots, humanoids.
Yeah.
That's the quote. High intellect, but also strange abilities.
Like what?
Clairvoyance, teleportation, a paralyzing gaze, the ability to inflict pain remotely, and of course, memory wiping.
So biological robots or androids designed for intimidation and control.
That's the picture painted by Zdorov's alleged information. And he apparently experienced their surveillance directly.
How so?
Neighbors reported seeing MeBe visiting his home frequently, but he often had no memory of the visits.
Suggesting successful memory wipes.
Strongly suggests it. Then there's that story about the Soviet scientist, Vladimir Zamaroko.
On the train, that one's bizarre.
Isn't it? Pre-perestroika. He's been talking about UFOs all night with someone else in his train compartment. Next morning, this tall MeBe shows up.
It just appears.
Sits down with them, and then proceeds to repeat their entire conversation from the night before, verbatim, like a recording.
Oh, that's terrifying. Just to demonstrate they heard everything.
Exactly. The other passenger apparently freaked out and fled the compartment.
Yeah.
Zamaroko became extremely guarded about his work after that.
Understandably. But then there's that contradictory story, the pensioner in Kaliningrad.
Right. It throws a wrench in the works. She's writing a manuscript about UFOs, struggling to find the money for postage, needs a very specific amount, 13 rubles, 60 kopecks.
Okay.
And as she's worrying about it, this young man appears, dressed in black, described as very nice, very friendly.
Right.
He just hands her the exact amount of money she needed for the postage, then leaves.
That's helpful, not intimidating at all.
Completely the opposite. It's perplexing.
So we have these accounts, mostly chilling robotic enforcers, but then this one act of weird benevolence. What does that contradiction tell us about who or what the Marimi really are? What are their motives?
Well, the sheer consistency across decades and continents, the suits, the methods, that points to something organized, centrally controlled. That seems clear.
But the Kaliningrad incident.
That's the outlier, isn't it? The key insight here, maybe, is that while their primary function seems to be suppression through fear and memory alteration,
Yeah.
perhaps their mission isn't always that simple. Maybe that was a rare glitch, an anomaly. Or maybe, just maybe, their role is more nuanced sometimes. Perhaps guiding certain information out, not just stopping it. Or managing the players in a more complex way than just silencing them. It complicates the picture.
It definitely does. And that idea of complex management, of control, leads us straight to the concept of a global conspiracy with really deep roots.
Yeah, the sources dive right into why this massive cover-up exists. The core reason given: simple greed and power, the desire for financial and military dominance using acquired alien technology.
And they even mention a secret society.
Allegedly running things behind the scenes, monopolizing this knowledge since way back, since that supposed 1941 incident.
And the secrecy is structured right, layered.
Extremely layered. Within the U.S. government, for example, the sources claim it operates on a strict need-to-know basis. So strict that even the president
The president doesn't know.
isn't read in. Presidents change every 4, maybe 8 years. These black and super black programs involving alien tech are supposedly locked down under secrecy levels that are decades old, far beyond level 17, which is apparently nuclear code level.
Wow. So presidents are temporary managers, but the real secrets stay hidden deeper.
That's the claim.
Ah.
And it wasn't just the U.S. playing this game.
The Soviets do.
Oh, yeah. The sources detail a Soviet conspiracy of silence and ridicule starting around 1952, mirroring the U.S. tactics.
How did they enforce it?
Publicly, dismissal. You had high-ranking officials like Mikhail Pervukhin just laughing off U.S. sightings, saying Americans were imagining strange objects. Then in '68, a big article in Pravda, the main state newspaper, declared UFOs pseudoscience.
Shutting down public discussion.
Exactly. And witnesses were pressured, like that pilot who was warned, keep quiet about what you saw or you won't graduate flight school.
But behind the scenes, they were interested.
Very interested. Despite the public denial, they ran secret programs. Grid started in '78, Galaxy in '80, Horizon in '85, all dedicated to analyzing UFO data.
So they were studying it secretly.
But here's the twist. These programs apparently discovered something shocking. It wasn't just them hunting saucers.
They were being hunted.
Or at least actively monitored and maybe even provoked. There's this terrifying incident described involving the 50th Strategic Missile Division. Nuclear missiles.
What happened?
UFOs hovered over the base. And while they were there, the missile launch system activated on its own.
Activated.
Yes. Control was lost. It only returned after the UFOs left. This apparently ruled out U.S. interference. The tech signatures were wrong and sparked real fear that they were dealing with more powerful forces.
I can imagine losing control of nuclear missiles. That's nightmare fuel.
Absolutely. And this fear seems justified when you look at accounts of direct military confrontations with UFOs. They often ended badly for the military side.
Like Colonel Alexander Kopeikin's experiences.
Chilling stuff. In 1982, he flew into a black cloud. About a kilometer across, just hanging there. Radar couldn't see it. His plane went haywire, lost control, violently buffeted. He barely got out.
A non-physical cloud that affects aircraft.
That's his description. And another time, on a training flight, this huge object, 80 meters long, flew alongside his plane.
Escorted him?
And apparently paralyzed him.
Yeah.
For 2.5 minutes, he couldn't move, couldn't even look away, just locked in place by its presence.
That's terrifying. And he developed some kind of prediction method afterward.
Bizarrely, yes. He worked out this formula that predicted UFO appearances near his base with uncanny accuracy, down to the hour, every 1 month, 11 days, and 2 hours, plus or minus 10-15 minutes.
That implies a pattern, predictability, intelligence.
Absolutely. Not random events.
So backing up a bit, the sources talk about this trade-off, this Faustian bargain again.
Right, the idea that aliens take resources.
What kind of resources?
Things like huge amounts of water, tons of minerals. And then there's the cattle mutilation phenomena, mostly in the U.S. Thousands of animals found dead, drained of blood, organs precisely removed.
Okay, that's disturbing. And in return, we get...
Technology.
Yeah.
The sources suggest things we take for granted now: wireless internet, maybe smart contact lenses, nanorobots, touchscreens, might have originated from this exchange.
Advanced tech for resources and biological samples.
That's the implication. And the supposed goal behind giving us this tech, the sources suggest it's to keep people out of space.
Keep us grounded. Why?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The sources don't give a definitive answer, but it points towards some kind of planetary quarantine or management strategy. Maybe they don't want us messing around out there yet, or maybe they want Earth's resources for themselves.
So this deep-seated global secrecy spanning superpowers involving these incredible risks and trade-offs, what does it ultimately reveal about humanity's real relationship with these phenomena?
Well, the profound insight here, looking at all this, is that it suggests a hidden layer to reality, a framework operating beyond national governments.
A power structure we don't normally see.
Exactly. It implies that these entities, whoever they are, possess influence or power that just dwarfs conventional geopolitics. Humanity, or its secret keepers, seem to have entered into some kind of arrangement where our control over our own destiny is, well, it's shared at best.
And potentially compromised at worst.
Significantly compromised. It paints a picture where the whole myth of aliens isn't just stories, but maybe a carefully managed narrative, designed perhaps to guide us or misguide us towards an end we don't even know about.
An unknown agenda. And incidents like Tehran really hammer home the power difference.
Oh, absolutely. Two advanced Phantom jets try to engage a UFO, attack it. Yeah. All their electronics just die. Weapon systems offline. They can't do anything. Then apparently, two beings in silvery suits emerge from the object, look around, get back in, and it flies off towards the Soviet Union.
Just total technological dominance.
A stark reminder, yeah.
So we've really gone deep here into a world that feels way more complex, frankly unsettling, than just science fiction.
It's a labyrinth. Hidden histories, secret pacts, these chilling personal encounters, the men in black.
From levitating kids in 46 to, near nuclear incidents, underground bases, mind-wiping humanoids, the sources lay out this consistent, if fantastical picture.
And it really forces you, the listener, to ask, doesn't it? How much of what we think we know about UFOs, about possible alien contact, how much is real? And
how much is a story we've been told, a carefully crafted narrative?
Yeah.
And why? Is it about control, resources, or something bigger?
That's the core question. Yeah. Is it about managing human understanding, maybe exploiting the planet? Or is there a purpose we can't even guess?
And that final thought, if our own rapid technological leaps are somehow tied to these hidden deals, these interactions, what's the real price, the unseen cost we're paying as a species?
Can we ever actually change the rules of this game? Or is the myth itself, as the sources suggest, already a global story that spun exactly the way it was designed to, beyond our ability to control it now?
A truly provocative question to end on.